chapter 7, verses 1 through 3. I will read it first of all in Hebrew, and then I will give you my own translation from the Hebrew text. Vahi ki yashav hamelech beveto, va'Adonai heniach lo, misaviv michol oivaiv. And it came to pass, or it happened, that the king sat, or the king dwelt, or the king lived in a house, and his house. And the Lord gave him rest. The Hebrew word here is Noach. If you remember Genesis chapter 6, Noah means rest. From around him, from all his enemies. So that means God has given peace to David from all the enemies around him. Verse 2. Vayomer Hamelech el Natan Hanavi, Re'na Anochi Yoshev Bevet Arazim, Va'aron Ha Elohim Yoshev Betoch Airia. And the king said to Nathan the prophet, Nathan, see, or look, please, I am dwelling, or I am living in a house of cedar, and the Hebrew is plural, razim, but for good English we say cedar. The same thing with fish, rice, you don't put them into plural. And the ark of God sits or dwells in the midst of a tent. Vayomer Natan el Hamelech Kol Asher Bilvavcha Lech Aser Ki Adonai Imach. The last verse, verse 3. And Nathan said to the king, all or everything that is in your heart, go and do it. Here you have two imperatives. Go, do whatever that is on your heart. For, or because, the Lord is with you. The title of our meditation today is, when we give thanks to the Lord, He gives us more in return. When we give thanks to the Lord, He gives us more in return. Based on my reading of the Oxford American Dictionary, the adjective grateful means feeling or showing an appreciation of kindness. To be grateful means to be thankful. It is not an easy thing to find everybody of a group or an assembly grateful. Why? Because the enemy is giving us reasons to be ungrateful. During his earthly ministry, Jesus healed 10 lepers. Only one came back to say thank you. The evangelist reports that he was praising God in a loud voice. He was a foreigner. A thinker suggests 9 reasons why the 9 others did not return to thank the Messiah. 1. One waited to see if the cure was real. 2. One waited to see if it would last. 3. One said he would see Jesus later. 4. One decided that he had never had leprosy. 5. One said he would have gotten well anyway. 6. One gave the glory to the priest. 7. One said, oh well, Jesus did not really do anything. 8. One said any rabbi could have done it. 9. One said, I was already much improved. Also, they all thought that they should go back to their family as quickly as possible, forgetting the author of the blessing. But this Samaritan while being at Jesus' feet, found something much more than the other 9. When Jesus said to him, "Rise and go, your faith has made you well." Luke chapter 17, verses 11 through 19. Our passage, 2 Samuel chapter 7, starts by saying that the Lord has given David rest from all his enemies. Did he have enemies? Yes, David had enemies. Saul was one of them, the previous king. His own son Absalom rose up against him. And the nations that did not like Israel were fighting against him. David did what Samson could not do. He killed the champion of the Philistines, Goliath. Saul and Jonathan did not exterminate the Amalekites. Probably they could not. But David did, as this was the command of the Lord through the prophet Samuel. 1 Samuel 15, verses 3 and 30. Here is another example. Zion is the hill of Jerusalem on which the city of David was built. This place was a Jebusite site. So then, in order to capture Jerusalem, such a great, important place, David had to fight and win over the Jebusites. He did conquer, and eventually, he inherited the land. It was a time of shalom for the whole country of Israel. There was gold in great quantity. At the possession of the Israelites were precious objects taken as a war prize or booty. David, like his son Solomon, imported woods from Lebanon to build his palace. He greatly extended the border of Israel, which he ruled as a united kingdom. Again, the nation of Israel knew abundance under David. I want to show you a house of cedar. This is great. This text displays how David felt one day while sitting at home. And it makes us think that David's heart was filled with gratitude by remembering who he was before, a shepherd boy. He was behind the sheep. How Adonai has lifted his head, and the victories that God has given him over all his adversaries. At times, he could have lost his life, but the Lord was a shield around him. Psalm 5, verse 3. David's sentiment was, if I live in such gorgeous palace, then the Ark of the Covenant should remain in a nice house too. It should not be in a tent. As you all know, it was that night God said to the prophet Nathan, "Go tell David, it's not him who will build me a house, but his offspring." The Hebrew word for offspring is zerah, that means seed. But Yahweh added something very significant, which we call the Davidic covenant. I myself will establish a house for you. You will always have a son at power. Your house and your kingdom will endure forever before me. Your throne will be established forever. I want to share with you the meaning of our Hebrew word, bet. The meaning of the Hebrew word that we have in this text. Okay. The Hebrew word is bait, but it's in construct form. Here it's bet. It can mean both house and temple. It refers to a fixed house built of any material most of the times, in most instances. But it can shift to the contents of the house, or it means the household living in the house. This word bait can also mean family or clan of related individuals. Genesis chapter 7, verse 1. The house of Noah means Noah's family. Bayit can also mean lineage or descendants. For example, Exodus chapter 2, verse 1 tells us about the house of Levi. It's to say the line of Levi, from which Moses would come from. At other times, Bayit means a royal court in reference to king, and that's our meaning here, dynasty. So a house, the same Hebrew word, Bayit, means dynasty. In 2 Samuel chapter 7. The term occurs 7 times as part of Yahweh's promise to David. At least 2 contextual indicators demonstrate that Bayit refers to David's dynasty rather than his immediate family or even his lineage. Number 1, we have the juxtaposition of house with kingdom that suggests it deals with a royal dynasty line. Number 2, we have the presence of forever in the text, with reference to this house in 3 verses, 3 times. This is a distant future. It suggests a duration that exceeds most family lineages.